All right, so introduce Don Johnson with Filter of Hope.
Okay, thank you all for joining us today, and thank you for being here in person. This is a great honor to meet you all and be able to share with you something that's really exciting. And I hope that you understand what the mission of Filter of Hope is all about. It really has nothing to do ultimately with just water filters. Water filters are a tool that we use to introduce people to Christ. And that's what it's all about. That's really why we do this. Now, we understand that not everybody who is going to buy water filters has that same end goal in mind, but that's okay. We want to be able to provide safe, clean drinking water to everybody who needs it. But for us at Filter of Hope, the reason behind that is really the gospel of Christ. In Matthew, Jesus tells an incredible story. He said that he had gone to a lot of towns and villages, and he would go to where the people were, the synagogues and the meeting places where people gathered. And Jesus began to preach and to teach about the kingdom of God. And so he went to places where people were and brought with him the good news about the kingdom. And then the Bible says that Jesus began to heal people. He met their physical needs. And once he met their physical needs, they were much more open to listen to his talk about the kingdom. And then Jesus made an interesting statement. He looked at his disciples and said, I want you guys to pray to the Lord of the harvest because the harvest is ripe. We just need laborers. We need people to go out into the field because the people are there. And Jesus had demonstrated it. And what we're really looking for is men and women who have a heart for people, who have a real desire to use their lives to change the world. And Filter of Hope gives you that opportunity. And that's what the Ambassador Program is all about. We're looking for excited men and women who can share the vision of what we do, share the vision of the filters, to be able to do that with individuals, but to do that in groups and small groups, whether it's at your church or another church, whether it may be at the Rotary Club or a business or anybody that would let you come and share the vision of what we do. And so in the Ambassador Program, we've actually created a document that outlines the agreement that we have with you, and we'll be providing each one of you with one of these agreements. But it says basically that we're looking for people who have a desire to help people who are in desperate need with clean water. We're also looking for people that's got time to invest. And we're not naive to believe that you're going to be spending all your time doing this. We don't expect that. But it will take a little bit of time to be able to make some phone calls, to be able to make some presentations and follow up with organizations. And so we need that. We're looking for people who are energetic, outgoing, and able to share our vision, who understand it and can articulate that in front of groups. And we'll provide you with all the training that you need. We'll make it very simple. We'll provide you with the tools that you need to be able to do that. And so we want you to be able to get out there and find the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, in your network of friends and associates, people that you can talk with about the filter. And so what we've done today is we've set up a filter for you, and I want to show you how the filter works. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may have not. I want to show you how the filter works, and then I'm going to walk you through a typical water day that we would do in a church or an organization, something like that, and how you do those, how you go about setting those up to talk to the people to be able to do that. But first, I just want to show you the filter itself. And as Scott was mentioning earlier, the filter uses the same technology that's found in kidney dialysis. And so the filter cartridge is just, it's very small. The filter itself weighs only 9 ounces. And we do not provide the 5-gallon bucket that you see there. The filter comes in a kit like this, and so it's able to, you put 20, 25 of them in a backpack, and you can go on down the street and deliver these, distribute these to people that have need. But the filters connect to a bucket, and in the kit, you're going to find a drill bit and a handle so that you can drill a hole in their bucket. It's got all the connections, the washers, the attachments for the hose, and then the filter cartridge itself. And then each kit comes with a cleaning syringe, and I'll get to that in a minute, how you use that. But Once you set it up, and there's a video on the website that shows you how to assemble the filter. It's very simple. It only takes 2 to 3 minutes to install the filter to the bucket, and it's gravity operated, gravity fed, so you don't need electricity. It's not solar powered, anything like that. This filter, the flow rate is set up so that it will provide up to 150 gallons of clean water per day, every day, for up to 10 years. Provided that they clean them appropriately, that they take care of them and all that. Now, a lot of people say, well, how much does 150 gallons a day look like? Well, you're probably not going to do 150 gallons a day because that's just the flow rate that if it was running 24 hours a day. But it's about the flow rate that you'd see in a commercial water fountain, like you would find in any commercial building, you know, about how much water a water fountain produces. That's about how much water this filter is going to produce. And so what we've done, just for illustration purposes, we've connected to the bucket and we've got some dirt, some potting soil, some things like that in this water. And so it's pretty dark and dirty there, you can see. And all you need to do, once the filter is installed, you just take the little cap off of the filter cartridge, and you've got to get the cartridge below the water line so that the gravity will work. So I'll just do this best I can here and kneel down and put some water in this and let you guys see what this looks like. Normally in a water day presentation, I actually put cow manure in the water because it makes a bigger effect than saying we've just got dirt. And so it doesn't matter what's in that water, it's going to take it out. Any kind of bacteria, microorganisms, any kind of little parasites, anything like that in that water, this filter is going to take out. So if you can see how dirty and black that is, this water is completely pure and clean and absolutely safe to drink. In fact, this water is purer than bottled water that you can buy in the store. The EPA, we send samples of all of our production runs to the EPA every time so that they can test them and make sure that we're maintaining our quality control standards and all of that. So that's how the filter works. And in a normal water day, we'll set up a bucket like this and allow people to be able to come and drink water if they want to. And we do this on a stage and then let everybody see kind of how it works. Okay?
Ron, just a question. When you did that at our church, you had the pastor come up and drink the water. Is that typically what you'd recommend? I would
Yes.
think that would be impactful.
Yes. And on a typical water day, what you'll do, and I'll kind of take you through from the beginning to the end, okay, because that's going to be very helpful to you. Because you're probably, once you sign up to be an ambassador with us, your phone's not going to ring tomorrow and a pastor is going to say, please come to my church and do this for us. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to be able to talk to someone, a pastor, a missions pastor, someone, or whether it's just like a Rotary Club or a BNI networking meeting, any kind of a group. You need to find that leader and talk to them about this and explain what you want to do and why. And we can work offline to be able to help you with the training for that and how you go about it. But in a typical water day, what I ask for is a couple of things. Number one is to be able to demonstrate the filter from the platform. That's very important. If you cannot do that, you still do a water day event, but your odds of being successful go down dramatically. You really want to be able to just demonstrate the filter from the platform. And so we'll set it up just like I've done today. And what we do, and this will be something that we can help you with too, is making a little sign like this. And actually we can provide you with all the artwork for this one or any other kind of sign that you can use. And I took this to Office Depot. This is a 24 by 36 little poster that was mounted on a dry mount board for me. I think it was $20 to $25. We put this up, and so that can kind of help the church be able to see what you're doing and create some interest, and so we'll help you guys with that. But we've set the thing up on the stage, and we ask that the church or the organization will play the video that you just saw, the video that's on the website. That's very important because that video communicates in a lot better way than I can communicate about the filter. It shows where it goes. It introduces the cost. It introduces all of those things to the organization. So that's a great way to do it. One of the things that I do in those water days is I will look and begin to see, like our meeting started 30 minutes ago. Okay, on average, 3 children die per minute. About a child every 20 seconds. So I'll try to calculate in my mind about how many people that is. So since we started with this call just a little bit ago, approximately 90 people have passed away. Since we started this call 30 minutes ago, 90 people with names and faces, with moms and dads and brothers and sisters, they are no longer on this planet because of the lack of clean drinking water. When you share that in a congregation or in a group setting, people realize this is serious, this is for real. And so then I'll demonstrate the filter, and like Steve said, I'll ask the pastor or the leader to drink that to show that everything's okay. If it's in a church setting, I'll normally share how we use this filter to share the gospel. Because what I have found is that's very important to pastors and to leaders, not just that we're able to provide clean water, but that we're able to bring the gospel and use the filter as a tool to introduce people to Christ. And so what I do, and I don't go through all of the gospel presentation in a water day, but very briefly, I tell them how the water represents the sin in our lives, a foreign condition that has entered it. We didn't ask for it. We were born with it in our lives. The Bible tells us that everybody has sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And this bacteria, this dirt that's entered this water, if we drink it, makes us sick and ultimately can kill us. And I go on to talk about how that's what sin does in our lives. It enters into our lives and it'll make us sick, and it can ultimately kill us spiritually. It separates us from God. But the problem is we don't have a way to remove that. It takes something that we don't have to get that sin out of our lives, to get that bacteria out of our lives. And that's where this filter comes in. This filter really represents what Jesus did with us, for us on the cross. How he comes and removes the sin from our lives. The bacteria, all the elements in this water are trapped in this filter cartridge. And the filter takes upon itself that bacteria. That's what Jesus did on the cross. He took upon himself our sin so that we don't have it anymore. He frees our lives from that sin. And then the clean water that we had represents our life now, free from all this after Christ has come into our life and saved us. And I share that. And we even go into talking about how we ask people, you clean the filter once a week. And we normally tell them to clean it on Sundays. Because if you say once a week, people will forget. But they can remember to clean it on Sundays. And the way you clean the filter is you just take clean water and you'd use your syringe that's provided here, and you would just get water into the syringe, and then you would take the syringe itself, take the filter cartridge loose from the cord, the tubing, and back flush this clean water through this filter cartridge. You may have to do it 3 or 4 times to get it clean, depending on how much bacteria or how much dirt is in that cartridge. And once you do that, it's clean just like brand new and ready to go again. And so that's how you clean the filter. And then we go into the fact of telling them how they do that once a week, and that really reminds them that this Christianity relationship that they're entering into is not a one-time thing. It's an everyday thing. And weekly they can go and assemble at the church with the pastor and be around other believers that help and support them. And so that's kind of the way that we use the filter to share the gospel. So that's very quick on all of this.
That's great. Could you just show now the marketing materials that you would set up after the church service, maybe out in the lobby, that people would come by and talk a little bit about then how people would contribute, and you maybe give them a brochure?
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. This is the main water filter brochure. It's related to Filter of Hope, and it just tells about the filter itself, a little bit about how it works, the cost and all of that. And so we would provide you as ambassadors with these brochures. And so we place these on a table in the lobby where people can do it, or sometimes in churches, they'll put these in a bulletin. And if they're willing to do that, we can provide them with brochures to do that. And so this is a brochure that relates to the filters. Now, as you heard Scott, as we began, not only do we sell filters through the kind of the parent organization, Global Effect, we also take distribution trips. We take trips to Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And so if a church says, hey, we would love to do water filters, but we go to Honduras or Africa, great. Take your filters to Honduras and Africa. But what if they say, we'd love to do filters, but we've never been anywhere to use them? Well, we can help them with that. And through the Global Effect side, we can take some trips. And we've got some marketing materials for that for you guys as well. This one tells a little bit about Global Effect and who we are and kind of our three-pronged ministry with our short-term mission trips, how we do water filters and community transformation projects and things like that. Here's another piece that we'll provide to you, and it's just 6 simple reasons to do a missions trip with us, and it talks about the advantages of going with Global Effect. You probably won't get into these a whole lot because mostly ambassadors are going to be selling filters and providing filters to a church to go on their mission trip. So that's what we'll be doing.
Don, this might be a good point to mention another piece about the ambassador program, about the way they can be compensated in the 2 different options. Can
Absolutely.
you explain that?
Yeah. And we don't expect you to do this for nothing. And so we've made it as attractive as we can, given the mission of what we're doing. And so when you get Filter sponsored, you can be compensated in one of 2 ways. You can earn commission dollars that will be paid to you, form of real check. 10% of the total amount of filters that are sold, you will earn as a commission. So if you go to a church and do an average water day, a small church of 100 to 150 people, and they sponsor 100 water filters, that would be a $4,000 transaction. From that, you will have earned $400 for that morning's effort. Okay? So 10% of whatever you sell. Also, if you want to go on a trip with us, you can earn dollar credit to offset your in-country cost and to go toward the overall cost of your trip. And we can do that as well. So you can
for
be
a mission trip.
For a mission trip. So you can be compensated in one of the 2 ways. You can earn cash, or you can earn kind of cash credits for a trip with us to go and distribute the filters. So that's how that works. And then we'll just keep a running total of all the filters that are sponsored through your connections. And it's not that you just have to, sign them up every one yourself. You could go to your church and do it. And then if from there the pastor says, well, my buddy pastors down the street, let's go down there and do it. Well, that's all on you, And so it begins to add up, and it can add up very quickly, very quickly. The average church of, let's say, 100 people will do anywhere from 75 to 100 filters. That's an average kind of situation. A church of 1,000 will do anywhere between 400 and 600. The larger the church, the lower the percentage, but you can see it gives you a great opportunity to earn some significant dollars as you do this. You also would be a 1099 contract employee, not a W-2 kind of employee. A 1099, we would keep up with all that for you and provide you with all that documentation at the end of the year.
If I can add one thing to that, Don, just to clarify, it's actually not an employee relationship, just to clarify that term. It's an independent representative, and 1099 represents that, but just so that everybody on the call is clear, it's a totally independent thing, and as you said, it's really up to you as to how much time you put in it as well. And maybe talk, maybe the last piece on the agreement, and then the training, how that would work.
Yeah. In the ambassador program document that we will provide with you, there is an agreement that you would sign, and basically it just tells you, puts in writing about the sales commission and what we pay and how that works. It tells about the materials that we'll provide. It also talks about the support that we're going to give you, and the way that we're setting it up right now is I would be kind of your primary point of contact to provide you with the materials that you need to be able to assist you. And if possible, and we can't promise this because we don't know when and where you're going to be able to schedule water days, but if possible, would certainly be willing to come and help you to do that so that you're not having to do it by yourself. Steve probably could help with some of that, and maybe Scott as well. But in the agreement, it goes through and talks about all of this kind of thing. It gives some tips for a successful water day, some things that we found through just doing these over and over, some things that will help you, and then basically you just kind of sign the agreement, we sign the agreement, and we begin to work together to do this. And if at any point in time you say, my schedule has changed and I can't do this anymore, or, not worked out for me or whatever, that's okay. I mean, it's not like we're going to make you sign anything in blood, nothing like that. But our role is just to support you and provide you with all the tools that you need to be able to do this. Okay? Is there any questions that, and I know I've gone pretty fast. But
One thing, if we can switch gears, let me just come over here and join you so we can videotape this. Wanted to just share two things. Our church, Vinings Church, first met Don maybe 9 months ago when we went through this, and we're about a 150-person church, so that's one of the examples you gave. Our church raised funds for 175 filters. In September, we took those to Burkina Faso, Africa. It was an amazing experience, and we're now planning for our trip back this next year, which will be again in September. Our goal is to take 500 filters. So I think one point there is when a church mission team experiences the power of sharing the gospel and what this filter does, then, here's a very small church that went from 175 filters. This next year, we hope to do 500. Yeah. The other thing I want to share is as we've visited with other mission organizations and other churches, we've found that two things. One is that the church itself, the mission director, which is usually your main person you want to try to contact when you call on a church, one of their biggest challenges is when they have a mission team go to Africa or go to Haiti, is equipping those people of how to share the gospel. That's one of the biggest challenges they have. And you've heard from many. I've just in visiting, traveling with you some, I've heard it over and over from mission directors about how significant that could be. They may be doing some other kind of water solution now. They may be working with sand filters, or they may be not even doing water. But their goal is to go share the gospel somewhere in the world. And I believe, from what I've seen and what I've experienced with our team, that this is one of the best vehicles that I know of to be able to go in. We were in Burkina Faso, that's mostly Muslim. I was amazed at how open Muslims were to hearing the gospel. Best we can tell, through the 6 days we were there, around 1,100 people heard the gospel because of us being there and taking clean water. We heard in one village, the village chief, that got up and talked for quite a while after we presented the filters and demonstrated it. And he said that when the Christians first came there, he was very afraid, because they're a Muslim village, but the Christians asked to be able to drill a well, and they did. And then they came back a few years later and asked if they could build a church. They were very afraid of that, but they allowed them to do it. And now we were there sharing the water filter. Another point I want to make is we've learned, even though that these villages have water wells, there still is a problem with clean water.
Yeah, absolutely.
They carry water around on these big tin pans. It sits, mosquitoes get in it. There's all kind of problems with still getting it to their home and drinking. So even where they had clean water wells they drilled a couple years ago, this brought their level of clean water to another level. And the comment that the chief made, this was a Muslim chief saying this, is that the Christians are now welcome in their village to in the future. And he talked about what a change in their village it's made, and how the Christians allowed the clean water to be available to anyone, not just Christians. So that was just such a powerful thing. But for churches to, when they're introduced to this, and when they understand that their team going out will probably come back much better equipped to share the gospel in Atlanta, Georgia, or in Africa, or anywhere, because of the experience they have here. So I just wanted to share that part.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. And you know, there's a significant piece of thing that you need to understand, and that is how pastors think related to mission trips. Because I'll give you an insight into their world. Okay, for a pastor to allow his people to go on a mission trip and pay, let's just say it costs $2,000 per person to go on a missions trip. In most circumstances, that $2,000 that they're going to pay to go on that trip is a significant portion of that will be taken out of what they would have put in the offering plate. If you follow me? Now, it may not be all 2,000, but they may say, we're going to withhold a portion of our giving for the next 6 months because we're going to go on this mission trip. And so instead of putting $2,000 in the offering plate, that couple now, or that individual, may only put $200 and use the other to fund their trip. Okay? That happens. That's just the real world that we live in. So for a pastor to say, I'm going to make the investment to send people from my church on a mission trip, you need to think, what's the pastor looking for? Why would he do it? And in the mind of a pastor, the most important thing to him is not the people that you go minister to, but the people from his church and what happens in their lives. And Steve, you're exactly right. If they come home transformed and a totally different churchman because of their experience, that's what the win is for that pastor. That's what he's looking for. And so when you talk to that pastor or that missions leader about coming and doing a Water Day presentation, that's where you need to go. Not just that they're going to provide clean drinking water, but what it's going to do for the people in his church, how it's going to change their lives as they participate in something like this. I could tell stories all day, but we had one church in which a 7-year-old boy saw this filter, made his mother take him home. He emptied out his piggy bank. The day before had been his 7th birthday. His grandmother had given him some money. He came back to me before I left, and he had $32. And they were crinkled up dollar bills and coins. And he said, Mr. Don, can I get a filter for another little boy just like me? Oh my. I've had a 97-year-old great-great-grandmother who lives on a very tiny fixed income, who sent her great-great-granddaughter back to her house to get her money from a knitted purse that she had her dollars in, and with tears in her eyes asked, could we provide a filter for a grandmother in Haiti? You talk about changing a life and impacting people. Now these people, a 7-year-old and a 97-year-old, who would never go on a mission trip, who would probably not be involved in missions, now they had a great encounter with being a part of that through the use of water filters. And so that's the story that we need to tell the pastors. That's why we're here. Not just to provide clean drinking water, but to help change your church, to create an event that your church will be excited about. We did a water day at a church just 2 weeks ago, and I was there afterwards for an hour and a half as people lined up, 10, 15, 20 people deep, to ask questions about it. And an hour and a half, the pastor said he'd never seen anything like it. That's the opportunity that you're going to have through the ambassador program. And so we'll help you with any kind of training that we can and all the materials that we can. Is there any more questions? Steve, you can think of anything we can talk about
Let's
here?
open it if you want to go ahead and stop that one, Chris. Yes, for anybody on the call or on the web conference, any questions that you've got about Filter of Hope or the Ambassador Program?
Steve, for a lot of them who aren't experienced with independent sales, is to make sure that they know that from the commissions and that they are responsible for paying the taxes.
Okay,
And
good
not
question.
to forget that. That's very important
Yeah.
for them.
So Ann had asked a question. I don't know if you guys could hear that about as an independent representative, 1099 type of relationship. That at the end of the year, as you get your 1099 on what commissions you earned, then you would be responsible for whatever taxes that are due. Another point, I guess, along that same line, just to make sure everybody understands, is that travel expense. Don, correct me if I'm wrong, but their travel, if they drive an hour to another church and do a water day, I assume that expense is on them. Is that correct?
That's my understanding at
Yeah.
this point.
Okay.
Now, if you're working in a very large church environment and you know, we can talk about different things that may be needed, whether that's, you know, we're going to have to all come together and provide more materials. We'll do that. But on a normal basis, yeah, the expenses are your own. And then as far as the money, this is another good question. In a typical water day, the easiest thing is to have people to make their checks out or to give their cash to the church, and then the church write one check to us. And we can even set it up so that they can send that straight in to the Filter of Hope office. Because very typically what happens on a water day is that there'll be people that want to give that were not prepared that morning that'll give the next Sunday. And so when you leave the church that morning, you probably will not be given a check that says, we've sponsored 100 filters. Probably won't be done that way. They'll probably want a week to get all their money in and then send it in. And we'll keep tabs on all that with you, and we'll work on that on a case-by-case basis.
So Don, if someone goes to the website, can you speak to that of how they would donate money, buy filters online?
Yes. Two things with that. If you go into a church on a water day, we've got one of the little squares that connect either to your phone or your iPad where you can swipe the credit card right then and there and do that. And I can send that to you in the mail. You need to send it back to me when you're done. But that goes straight to our bank account, so we can do that. But the other way is just to have people to go to the website and they donate online. What we'll need to do with that, because right now there's not a place where they can enter notes on that. So we'll have to, when we do this, we'll have to keep track of what city that you're in and when you do a water day, so that if you're in Beaufort, Georgia, we start getting donations online from people in Beaufort, we will probably know that was in relationship to your day. And so what we'll do is we follow up with everybody that donates online with an email. That comes to me. And I follow up with every single one of them with an email. We will verify that they were from whatever church and it was part of your water day, and then you'll get credit for it. So we can do that. So they can definitely go online and do it that way, or we'll provide you with the square and you can swipe it if you want to do that. Okay?
Hey, Don, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, one thing that we'll be doing, so we don't want to bog everybody down trying to remember, what do I do with all that? Vicki Patterson, who's on the call, our CFO, our financial person, what she will do to make this a lot easier for you is when you sign up for the Ambassador Program, you'll get just a one-page document that will explain the different payment options and how that you will collect money and how that you will record that. And so we work through a few simple things where you can take credit cards or how to handle a check, and so to make sure that the ambassadors you will be credited for that. So don't worry. Don gave you some great examples and right answers, but what I'm saying is you don't be overwhelmed with that, because you'll just get a sheet, you'll get a one-page Word document, that will explain just the simple steps of how to handle a payment, or with a church or individual organization. So know that will be coming when you sign up. You'll get a script as well, of some of the things that Don mentioned in his presentation, on the water day. So you will get a couple of documents that will kind of walk you through different things and then questions that you might ask and how to handle payments. So that will be coming once you sign up.
Good. And one other thing, Scott, I'm glad you mentioned that we plan to do. We videotaped this demonstration this morning, and so we'll have that on a YouTube link. And so when someone enrolls as an ambassador, that'll be another training tool we'll have, is they can just save that and click on and review what you just went through here, demonstrating, as part of the training before they do a water day. Any other questions? I know we've got about 7 more minutes here on our call. Any other questions at all?
How do you know if the filter needs cleaning? You said you put clean water through. How do you know when it's...
All right, so let me...
question.
So the question was asked, Amy Bernal just asked a question. How do you know if when the water is needing to be cleaned? Is that right?
Right, or when, Don showed us how you could put the clean water through the filter. How do you know how many times or when it's clean?
Yeah, how do you know how many times to do the back flush to know that it's clean? That's a great question.
Great question, Amy. 2 parts to that. How do you know when to clean it, and how do you know when it's clean? So how do you know when to clean it? Number 1, if the filter starts running slow, probably needs to be cleaned. And what's happening is the filter cartridge inside of this little plastic tube collects all this bacteria, all this dirt, so to speak, and so when it gets in there, if it starts getting full, the water stream will be slower. So if it starts to really slow down, that's a good sign. But tell them at least do it every Sunday, at least once a week. But then we've had some places where the water was really, really thick and dirty and muddy. They'll need to clean it maybe a little bit more than that. So then how do you know when it's clean? It's a great question. The way that you're going to know is when you inject the clean water through this filter cartridge, the first tube probably is going to come out black or brown or whatever color the water was. You'll probably have to do 2, 3, maybe even 4 syringes full until the water coming out of the filter is just as clean as the water going in. Okay? So when that happens, then you know it's clean. Another problem that mistake that people in third world countries make, they're so used to using Clorox in their water that sometimes they'll want to clean their filter with Cloroxed water. They don't want to do that. They want to use regular water. And you probably won't have to get into questions like that, but we do want to make sure that you know enough stuff so that you can answer questions that you have. And then the great line of anybody that's selling any product, when you get a question that you don't know the answer to, don't make it up. Just say, I don't know, but I will find out, and we'll let you know tomorrow. And then we'll provide you with my card. You'll have my email, my cell phone number. All you got to do is get in touch with us or with Scott or with Steve. We'll provide you with an answer, and you can get that back to the people the next day. So,
Okay, good.
okay? Great.
Any other questions? We got a few more minutes left on the call. Scott, any other final comments from you or Vicki? Anything else you want to share?
I would just want to this is Scott. I just want to thank y'all for being on the call and thank you for your commitment or your desire to really be passionate about helping people have safe and drinking water. The great thing about this filter is it's very simple. It's very basic. It's very easy. It meets one of the most incredible, one of the most basic needs that most people have around the world in these third world countries. And so we, having people like yourselves who are passionate about this, to help impact so many families. And what's amazing is just literally If you go sell 200 filters and get a free trip, that's awesome. But you realize if you only sell one filter, that's one family. That's one more family that will have safe drinking water. So whether you sell 200, 2,000, or two, you're going to have a huge impact on somebody's life. And so already, before it's even happened, we're thanking you in their advance because you maybe heard from Steve, but everybody, we just had a church come back, and we got an email from the guy in New York who took filters to the Dominican Republic. They took 187 filters, and he said it was amazing. He said, but the hardest thing was that we could have had 500 more filters. It's just not everybody could get one, and so there was such a great need. So having one more filter is one more family. So having you all involved in this, whether it ends up being 5 more filters or 5,000 more filters, it'll be a tremendous blessing to people around the world because now they'll have access to safe drinking water. So we just want to thank you for your commitment and willingness to help out this very simple program, very simple filter, but yet life-changing and life-impacting filter. So we thank you for your time today, and thank you for your investment in this project.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Scott and Don, and thanks everyone for joining the call. Any questions that you have, feel free to follow up with Don or myself or Scott or Vicki, and we'll be glad to get you that information. And have a great weekend. Goodbye.
And what we did too for you guys that are here, we want to make sure